Hey, what's up guys? This is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this review, we are looking at the SH Figuarts Iron Spider Spider-Man No Way Home version. And there's some really nice stuff going on with this figure, and there's a few things that are pretty weird, especially for SH Figuarts. One thing that I find mind-boggling, but otherwise, this figure has a lot of stuff going for it that's really nice. So let's go ahead and get it off the stand and take a closer look. Before we get into the meat and taters of the review, I do just want to mention that he does have white eyes in the artwork right here, which appears to be just a render from the movie maybe. I haven't seen the movie, but it is strange to me that the figure comes with only blue eyes for the main eyes and then red for, I'm assuming it's just like when they turned red in the first movie, but no white eye option. I find that very strange and unappealing personally, because the white looks way better for me. So we'll do a question of the day. How do you guys feel about the blue eyes? And is he supposed to have blue eyes? I don't know. I still haven't seen the movie, and I didn't think to look it up because I didn't know that was going to be a thing until I opened the package just now. Okay, so let's go ahead and do a height measurement so we don't forget about that. This guy stands almost exactly 14.5 centimeters. That's going to make him just shy of 5 3/4 inches. And here he is up against everyone's favorite creepy Uncle Darwin. So he's, it's a little bit short for Marvel Legends. If you wanted to mix and match, you probably could get away with it. Well, I guess not. Tom Holland's pretty short. That's probably about right, I'd say. It's probably close enough. It's all right. Definitely not enough to worry about as far as the difference goes. So that's good. So let's go ahead and talk about the aesthetic. I'll mention the paint first. The paint is gorgeous on this figure. It is like a satin metallic everywhere. The gold, the very fine gold lines, very clean. The blue to red transitions, nice. You can see, I don't think it's an actual wash because it's not messy anywhere, but there is paint in the recesses of the webbing throughout the entire figure. That's good. The eyes are clean. The little detail work all the way around, this thing is really, really clean. It's one of the best paint jobs I've seen in a very long time, and I love the satin finish. Gives it a really, really nice look. It's going to stand out on a shelf. Now, as far as the sculpt work goes, I have to say I'm a little bit unimpressed. The details are good. I'll zoom in tight again so you can see the details are good. Everything is sculpted and it's nice and sharp and tight, and there's no problems with like the technical sculpt. But as far as accuracy to Tom Holland, it doesn't strike me, and it definitely isn't exaggerated in the comic way. Like, it's, if anything, it's exaggerated to be slender and unimpressive. The shoulders especially, I think the shoulders are really the problem. They're quite small and fairly narrow. I know Tom Holland's not like the bulkiest dude or anything, but this is a very, very skinny, slender person with tiny hands. Like, it's definitely bordering on the line of too much like a real human rather than a muscled human in a tech suit. In the head shape, it's a little bit too round for me, I think, too. If we can get the focus, there we go. It loses some of its appeal in that it doesn't have, I don't think anyway, accurate heroic proportions, even for Tom Holland, because I know he's a real person. This isn't a comic book that we're using as reference anymore. It's a real person, but it is a CGI real person. And if you look at the artwork, I said it away too far away again. It looks a little bit more like he has a broader chest and shoulders. I know his arm is out, but still, it doesn't have the same look. So I'm a little bit bummed out by that. But the technical side of things, it's super good. So I'll give the aesthetics an overall rating of 8. It's really solid. I do think it should have some slight changes to make it look more appropriate. Very, very skinny. It's not feminine like some of the previous Spider-Man figures have been, but it is somewhat lacking. Okay, as far as accessories go, obviously we get the alternate back piece with the, are they called Waldos in the MCU also? Have they mentioned that ever? I don't know. With the robotic spider legs, I do in fact prefer the 4 spider legs as opposed to the 3 that we see in the comics mostly. Doesn't make sense to only have 3, not at all. He's a spider, he's got 4 limbs already, 4 more make sense. These are done really well. As far as the articulation on these go, it's a ball hinge at every one of the joints in here, and then we have regular hinges at these other 3 spots where you would have hinges. They're fairly stiff, they're not super tight. I'd say the hinges are okay, the ball hinges are relatively loose. This one in particular is very, very loose in the rotation, but they're okay. They're definitely strong enough to hold up their own weight. Holding up his weight, Probably not, and also they're not really long enough to do that very effectively anyway, so you're going to have some limitation there, but they're definitely well done. And the paint job on them, I'll zoom in real quick so you can see, the paint job on them is very, very clean. The gold line work throughout. Hard to focus. There we go. Yeah, they look nice. I am pleased with that. Now for hands, we have the 2 fist hands that come on them in the package. Then we get 2 gripping hands. We get a set of gripping hands that are molded together in one piece. We get some thwipping hands. We get some cowabunga hands. I don't know that those are absolutely necessary, especially one for both hands, but maybe it's a thing from the movie. I don't know. And then we get some open hands / wall crawling type hands. I think that's a good enough spread. We do get an alternate neck with the unmasked neck showing. No alternate head though, which really bothers me because you have to have purchased one of the previous Spider-Man figures to get the head for this. Just include it. I don't like that. I don't like that at all. Include it. You already have it. Include it. Who's to say somebody has it? I don't get that. That's very strange to me. It's not like this is an essential purchase, and neither are the other ones. It depends which suit you want, so that's very strange. He does have alternate eyes, so you can pop out those eyes, and then you have some open eyes, some squinty eyes, and then the red version. Again, no white eyes. Very disappointing. There's a little tool to remove those. And then we have some web accessories. We have some short webs, some long webs. Those connect to his wrist. We have one curved web for swinging, and then one where he's supposed to use that dual gripping hand to act like he's got it stuck to someone's chest or something else in general. And I guess you could also just use it in a singular hand. But there's no way for him to hold this other than in a gripping hand, so be aware of that. And then lastly, we have a little black peg to help him connect to a Tamashii Nation's display stand. Okay, so that's a pretty good spread. I think a display stand would have been nice, certainly an alternate head, but otherwise it's a good spread of accessories. I will go 9 out of 10. It really bothers me that he does not have the alternate head. If you only wanted this version, you should have been able to have the head, the unmasked head, or just don't include the neck accessory. I don't care for that. Okay, let's talk about the articulation. We have some ball pegs in the neck and in the head, and it works pretty well. It might not be as well as it could be. It might not be as good as it could be, but it does work well enough, I think, and it does look fairly natural while doing it. There's no huge gapping. He looks up pretty nicely. He looks down really well. It does lean side to side well enough, and of course you can rotate side to side, so it should be good enough. I was expecting a little bit more range, but they did opt for fairly small gaps, so I guess that's fine. Now this is the thing here that really I don't understand at all what they were doing. Why did they do this? They ruined his shoulders. The range of motion on the shoulders is atrocious because what they did is they sculpted the outer cap and then used a ball hinge on the inside, and that every single time limits the range unless you have a huge gap. And they don't have a huge gap, so you just have terrible range on a Spider-Man figure. I don't get that. You do get the butterfly joint that brings the arm forward. It looks pretty good. It's okay. But that it's still going to be limited by the shoulder that is terrible on top of it. So it does bring the arm around the chest a little bit better to bring them close together to use that one gripping accessory. But, I mean, the butterfly joint is fine, but the shoulder joint itself, it's on a ball peg, but you still get virtually no range out of the shoulder. It's awful. You get your rotation, but that is not acceptable. There's no reason for that at all. Make the shoulder the ball hinge. Make the shoulder the hinge. It's the only way it works every time and looks good. This never works and looks good. Very disappointing. You do get your bicep swivel, that's fine. Double jointed elbow, surprisingly limited range. I don't know what's going on with this figure, why it has less range than it should. For being a Spider-Man figure and being a very slender figure, they should have been able to really pack all the range in there, and they didn't do that. The wrists are on little ball hinges, that's fine. The hands look super tiny to me, like they are barely bigger than the wrist. So I guess that's fairly realistic for a human. I mean, my hand's not that much bigger than my wrist. At that angle, you can't tell. There you go. But it is bigger, and he's got armor on, so I don't know. I think his hands do look a little bit small. For the torso, I'm not positive what's going on in here because I can't quite see in there, but I'll show you the range. It feels like a couple of hinges and a ball peg, so he can lean really far forward. And that's good for certain poses, just don't look at him from the back. Obviously you can see some of the joint work in there. You do get a big gap in there when you lean him all the way forward. But that is clearly meant for specific poses where you're not looking from the back. Leaning backward, very little range. I mean, comparatively speaking, but it is sufficient, of course. That's fine. Leaning to the side, it is shockingly limited for being a Spider-Man figure, you don't get very much range. So that's a big bummer. Man, I love the sculpt work on this guy. They did such a good job. But yeah, the leaning is terrible. You do get your rotation out of the top and a little bit out of the bottom. It should be enough when you put them together. I really hate how limited it is for his leaning side to side. Very, very limited. For the hips, this is a little bit of a trick, so pay attention. Hopefully they're not all like this, but if they are, you'll need to know this. For his hips, they do go pretty far forward, but oh good, it doesn't do it anymore. Okay, so mine was getting stuck at about this point right here. It was getting stuck like that, and then this part was binding on the waist, so I was able to do that and bring the leg up farther. Now it's just doing it on its own. So that's good, never mind, it should be fine then for everyone. So better than horizontal, so that's good. That's a nice high kick. Going backward, basically straight back, also very good. The more range on a Spider-Man figure, the better. Out to the side, it's almost full on splits. I'll take it, that's probably fine. They are a little bit loose though, like definitely too loose for my liking. Not floppy, but pretty loose. And you do get a thigh swivel, so that's good. Double jointed knee, again, more limited than it needs to be. It's a little bit out of proportion still too, probably because the ankles are so long, because they added the ball hinge, which is super functional, and also it's just, the knee itself, it looks good from the front, but it's so limited in the range for no real reason for a Spider-Man figure. It looks good, but we need the range. And like I said, the ankles, the ball hinge is very obvious, so you get really, really good range on the ankle, and that's a good thing for sure, obviously. You get proper ankle rocker and everything, but I think it did extend the leg a little bit too much. They needed to account for that by shortening the shin bone a little, but they didn't. Toe hinge is alright, but very loose, so be aware of that, and it did sculpt and paint the bottom of the feet. So articulation on this guy, it is lacking in a few spots. In some spots it's really good, but it can't lean side to side. The shoulders are kind of terrible. The knees don't have great range, the elbows don't have great range, so despite the other parts being really good, it's not altogether a really good batch of articulation for a Spider-Man figure. You might not mind, but it is still limited in some way, so I'm going to give the articulation for SH Figuarts standards only a 7 out of 10. Marvel Legends, and I have no particular affinity for Marvel Legends, as you guys know, unless they have a really good release. The elbows and knees at least work better than this figure. Even leaning side to side usually works better than this figure. So I don't like that it's limited. And the shoulders for sure work better than this figure because these shoulders are horrible. Don't like that at all. But it is a solid release overall. Some cool accessories, awesome sculpt and paint work. It is just not a perfect figure. And once you pose it, you might not notice, but you will have trouble posing him in some ways because of those shoulders and the diaphragm joint and the elbows and the knees. So, you know, it's kind of like a weird trade-off that I don't think we should have to make for an SH Figuarts figure, but I guess we do this time. So I'm going to give it an overall rating of only 8 out of 10. I want to give it higher because it looks so good in so many ways, and some things are really nice about it, but like I said, it is held back in too many ways for my liking. So, there it is, guys. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please do give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, you can give it a thumbs down, and if you haven't subscribed, you might want to. I have new videos almost every single day, and thousands already on the channel, so make sure you come back for all of that. And in the meantime, keep collecting.